Elvis is a 2022 movie starring Austin Bueller and Tom Hanks. It tells the story of Elvis Presley's life and ultimately his death. The movie opens up with narrations from the Colonel, who states that some might refer to him as the villain of the story, but how could he be the villain? He gave the world Elvis. And so the whole movie is pretty much narrated through the Colonel, who presents himself as Elvis's partner, and for being the one who crafted Elvis into the king as we know him. The interesting thing about Tom Hanks' character, the Colonel, is that it's written really well, and Tom Hanks does a great job portraying his version of the Colonel in the movie. In the beginning of the movie, and early on in Elvis's life, he presents himself as a con artist who used to be involved with the military or Navy, and then became a man of the circus and was conning people. And he refers to himself as the snowman. He makes it snow. So it comes as no surprise, you think, that when it's inevitably revealed that he basically played Elvis like a guitar, it's written in such a way where it's like, how could you do this to him? I thought you guys were friends. But at the end of the day, that's how being a con artist works. You milk them for all they're worth. But the real star of the show isn't Tom Hanks, the Colonel. It's Austin Bueller's Elvis. And he does a great job bringing Elvis Presley to life on the big screen. He even sounds exactly like Elvis himself. He does a great job at mimicking the mannerisms that Elvis had in life and the way Elvis talked way back in the 60s and 70s when Elvis was around. He does a great job, and I loved seeing him portray the character on screen. Now, the movie does a great job of capturing those key moments in Elvis's life. And while yes, they graze over a few things, most of it is explained in detail, like his time in the military, and the time that Elvis lived in was a very controversial time, with racial topics being all over the place. Elvis's dances and the way he sung were considered to be sexually explicit and also considered to be controversial and racist at times. So it was more of a story of Elvis beating the system and really bringing that sense of character and entertainment that only Elvis could bring, regardless of what other people thought. Now, compared to the other movies that were based on famous songwriters like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man that came before it in the last 3 or so years, anybody going into this Elvis movie knew what they were paying for. So when the moment finally arrives and Elvis sings his last song, well, he is inevitably dying of a drug overdose. It's a lot more hard-hitting and makes our hearts ache even more because the way Austin Bueller plays the character, he makes us fall in love with Elvis right before the inevitability of his overdose. Now, going back to the Colonel for a few minutes here, the character of the Colonel is played by Tom Hanks so well that at the end of the movie, the Colonel has a midlife crisis right before he dies. The fact that the Colonel is so good at being a con artist, so good at making it snow, that he's even fooled himself. And he can't admit to himself that he was wrong. He's like, I am not responsible for the death of Elvis. I created him. I couldn't be. And that is so well done. The music in this movie is so well done. Everything in this movie, from featuring all of the classic songs by Elvis and having Austin Bueller perform them in the movie, he does such a great job. Tom Hanks such a great job as the Colonel, selling it. The characters don't feel like characters being portrayed by actors. We feel like we're watching history unfold. And that's what I like about this movie. I think that this movie is a masterpiece in the same way that The Batman was a masterpiece. just because the way it's written, the way it's performed, everything about it comes full circle, and it feels like we're making history here. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed my look at the Elvis movie, and with that being said, do take care and have a great night.